And okay, and here is another one. And okay, so here is an example of an axe that they actually fashioned from a stone and then gumamit sila ng kahoy. Okay. Now there were actually two types of toolkit that were available during the earlier times. It's called the Oldowan toolkit or and the Acheulean. So the oldest in record was actually the Oldowan toolkit. Okay. And then you have the difference between the Oldowan is that and the Acheulean is that the Acheulean is bigger cutting tools. So here's an examples of an Acheulean. Ito mga maliliit lang. So this were considered as an Oldowan toolkit. Okay. Now, the other groups of people or the other time zones were considered as the Mesolithic. So, since they were able to see that they needed sharp objects, they started fashioning things that would help them in their uh, day-to-day survival. Now, take note that since in the examples that we have here, they have spears, darts, harpoons, and we can actually deduce that this kind of people were more on hunters, not just gatherers. Yung mga gatherers lang kung ano makita nila dun, ay puwedeng pagkain, puwedeng kainin, yun. Sa kanila hindi, nakikipaghabulan na sila. So if you actually watched Croods, later on we'll have some excerpts of the Croods, you will see that there are some sort of a Mesolithic. It's a cross between the Stone Age and the Mesolithic. Okay, because they were able to hunt for their food. Okay, and they also have needles and threads, meaning that they are more into not fashion but protecting themselves from the climate. Okay, and they already started fishing. Then the last one under the Stone Age, you have the Neolithic. So this is actually the start of the smelting period, and if you will notice, they already transitioned into agriculture. So before they were just hunters, and most of the times hunters and gatherers are nomadic people. They do not stay in one place. Now the adoption of an agriculture in their system means that they have already started to find a decent place while going to settle down, and dun sila magstay na sila for good. Okay, so they have shifted from food gathering to food producing. They are herding animals, cattle, lamb, goats, and they also started pottery and clay product already and processing wild grains. Okay. Now the other age now is what we call the Bronze Age. So this is actually the second principal period during the prehistoric age. Now, this is the time when people were already into mining. They were able to see that there are minerals underneath the soil and they were able to gather it. So, here are some examples of those items that they were able to find. So, if you will notice, it's still sharp based on similar on the toolkits that we have during the Stone Age. However, it's already fashioned from a metallic part. So, the bronze actually started around 3,000 years before Christ. Now, bronze is a bit harder, but it's more durable than the other metals that were uh, available. Now, it's actually made up from combining copper and tin with arsenic. Okay, so yeah. And the last one is the Iron Age. So the Iron Age is actually, they were actually changing from hunting more on farming. So here, if you will notice, these are evidences of iron items during the prehistoric age. And most of them have already oxidized. Kumbaga, ano na sila, they have already been corroded. Okay, kumbaga sa kalawang nakain na halo. So here are some examples of their tools. So here you have yung mismong araro. Then they have a metal on the edge kasi pag kahoy madali lang yan magpudpod. Then here you have different types of plow. Piko. Ito piko din yan. No? So these are different kinds of piko. Okay. Ito pang bungkal to. And most likely these are axe, part of axe. Okay, plow. And then sickle. Yung sickle guys, yun yung pangkarit. Okay? Yung alam niyo yung ginagamit ni kamatayan. Yung kay kamatayan nga lang kasi mas malaki. Kasi nga, pag ginamit yun kasi sa Pag nagtatabas kasi ng damo yon, malaki yung matatabas niya. Ito, pwede itong gamitin sa pangkarit lang yung mga maliliit na halaman, yung mga prutas, tatanggalin sa mga pinagkabitan niya, yon. Okay? So, here are different types of iron items that they were available. Okay? So, the objective of this is so that you'll be able to see that people were already maximizing things that are available in their particular area. Pinag-aaralan nila on how they were able to come up with tools. And if you will notice here, para siyang isang malaking kutsilyo na to. Okay? So, yan. So, I have here, as I mentioned, I have some videos that I have included. Wait lang ha. Yan. So, let me just, ay wait lang, ba't man lahat? Ay, hindi, sige na nga. Diyan na nga lang, para gagamitin ko kasi mamaya. Okay. Let me just change your presentation para marinig nyo yung audio. Close ko lang din yung video ko para mas mabilis. Okay, so here is the movie, part of the movie Crudes. Although I have an actual video here, but unfortunately, since we have limited time, I cannot show you the full video, okay? Yan. And if you will see, you'll actually be able to show how people were able to survive during the past.
I want to see some real caveman action out there. We do this fast. We do this loud. We do this as a family. And never not be afraid. Hurrah!
Although ngayon medyo may mga tumatakbo pa siguro sa atin pero hindi na kasing resilient as these people. Alam mo yun, ilang oras ka tumatakbo.
Who's up? We'll flip for it. Collar in the air. Tails, thunks in. Positions. Okay. Thunk. Go. Come on, Thunk. Ah, way to go! Take it to the cave! Oh. Release the baby!
Yes, let it go!
wait till we get home. Eve, put on the brakes. Who's hungry?
Yeah! Good one, Dad.
Here you go, Thunk. Drink up.
Oh. Sorry, Dad. Looks like fast food tonight.
Well, that's all right. I ate last week.
Two-knuckle warning! Come on, Cruz. Go, 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 go!
Okay, so that is for a brief review of the cruise. And I have also another video here. Okay, so here is a video showing a man who was able to create a hut, isang bahay kubo, using pre-fashioned odlowan type toolkits. Okay. Okay, so yan po yung paggawa niya ng bahay using indigenous materials and also using cutting stones as a cutting device. Okay, so yan, let's go forward and discuss about the first civilization. Okay, sandali, change na ako ng sharing. Okay, so the first civilization is actually in Mesopotamia. Now, in Mesopotamia, you have actually one, two, three, four, five civilizations that actually started here. Hindi ko na sinama yung Persian dyan kasi po yung Persian has its own tradition. Okay, or it has its own contribution. Okay, so you have first the Sumerians. Actually, if you're going to look into the map here of the Fertile Crescent or Mesopotamia, you have here the different kingdoms already. So you have the Sumer, which started here in the lower part, and then you have the Akkadians and also the Babylonians here. Then you have here the Syrians. Okay, so this is actually modern day Iraq and Kuwait. Okay? Then here, and dito naman po yung Israel, Canaan, Palestine. Okay? Now, it's also known as the Fertile Crescent because of the shape, para siyang crescent moon. Okay? And it's actually between two bodies of water. You have Tigris and Euphrates. And majority, guys, actually, ng mga um, civilization, they lie in for bodies of water. Pwedeng sa dagat, tabing dagat, pero most of the time sa ilog. So for this one, for the Sumerians, the Akkadians, they all lie in the Tigris. If you go to Egypt, they have the Nile River. If you go to the Romans, they have the Tiber River. Okay, so majority of civilization lies in bodies of water. Now, bakit sa bodies of water? Because they need growth and sustenance. Majority of the foods, I mean water, particularly fresh water, is utilized for irrigation, for their planting. Now, remember, people have already settled in areas where they can stay forever. Okay, so dyan may forever sila. And since they were trying to stay there, they stopped migrating. So for the cradle of civilization, it actually started around 5,000 years ago, which is around 3,000 years before Christ. Okay. So since they settled there, they maximize the bodies of water that they have, that are available in their location. So they built dams, dikes, and canals that allowed them to get water from Euphrates River towards their different um farmlands. Okay, and by doing so they were able to come up with barley, dates, and even come up with herding flocks like sheep and goats. Okay, now the Sumer actually have an urban center or the city center nila, di ba? Parang ano to eh, this is where we got the term urban and rural. Okay, it's actually derived from Lugal, which is actually the king, the one that who is actually managing the city states. So, characteristic ng city nila, of course, they have the central power where the kings are located. Then they also have the farmlands or the rural areas. They have their different plots of farms. So if you will notice here, they have uh, cows that are tending their land, tilling the land. Okay. And then they were able to trade already. Then they also have gardens as well. Now, during trade, they also have invented the wheel, yung mismong cart, hindi yung push cart na ginagamit na 'pag naggo-grocery ha, yung cart, yung kariton, parang kariton. Yun nga lang hila-hila siya ng isang, either ng donkey or asno, ng kabayo or ng cows, okay? Or carabaos. Now, here in the urban areas, they have usually, as I mentioned, since they have found ideal places for them to live in. And syempre, parang ikaw, pag nakita ka ng somebody mo, di ba, paglalaban mo yan, come hell and high water. So, ganun din sila. They found a nice piece of land, and they want to stay there for a longer time. And that's why they have built walls, and they have also security guards or soldiers that are stationed on each entryway para hindi sila masasakop ng mga foreign invaders. Okay? So they have also streets and they have also roofing systems. Now here is an artist rendition of the city of Ur. Okay, so you have there, it's lying in the Euphrates River. And if you will notice here, if you're going to zoom in here, you will notice that they have water spilling inside the city that would allow them as a water supply dun sa loob ng city nila. Okay? And one of the major infrastructures that is famous for the Sumerian is the structure, the ziggurat. Now, the ziggurat is almost similar to a pyramid if you're going to look at the picture here. However, the only difference with the pyramid is that it's not as continuous as a pyramid at makakapal yung mga walls. Now, if you're going to look at the houses nila, syempre maliliit lang yung walls, maninipis lang, so mabababa lang yung structure. Pero if you want something greater, you have to enforce the walls. Since hindi pa naman ganun ka advanced ang technology during that time, the only way that they will be able to strengthen their walls is to make sure that increase the height of their building, kakapalan nila yung walls nila. Kaya mapapansin niyo yung mga structures nila ay makakapal. Now, paano natin nalaman na mayroong ziggurat? They look at the remains of a ziggurat. So here is actually a ziggurat. This is in Uruk, the ziggurat of Uruk. So mukha siyang uh, bundok, pero they have their particular rooms inside. Kaya nasabi nila na yun yung remains ng ziggurat. Here is the white ziggurat or white temple. And then here is a restored version of the ziggurat of Ur. Okay? So, ayun, it's still majestic, mga kapalang walls. Yun nga lang, hindi siya ganun kataas na mataas. Now, given that the location, I mean, given the rich history of their past, what in Baghdad did, they created a modern version. So, ito yung ginawa nilang Al-Zakura building in Baghdad in 1970s, which is a modern version of the ziggurat structure. Okay? Now, ano yung mga advances ng Sumer? So, unang-una, of course, yung wheel. Dalawang klase po yung wheel nila. You have the potter's wheel. Okay, kanina yung doon sa video ni Kuya, nung gumagawa siya ng paso or ng tabo or pichel or whatever that was, nagawa sa clay, hindi wala siyang yung wheel na iniikot. He has only a leaf, iniikot-ikot niya habang ginagawa niya. Pero dito, they have already the potter's wheel. So that's the second type of wheel that was invented by the Sumerians. Yung unang-una, yung transportation wheel na nakakadala sila. So ito yung nakita niyo dyan, that is the wheel. Wait lang ha. Saan ba yung mouse ko? Yan. Yan. So, yan. So, this is the version of the wheel that they have. So, may spoke siya. Tapos, merong siyang kahoy na isinusuksok once na pinapaano yan, pinupukpok nila yan para nakafix yung gulong. Otherwise, matatanggal yan. So, medyo mahirap yan gamitin. Siyempre, since wala kang mga gear sa ilalim, atras o bante lang yung gawa mo. Unless na konting maniobra ka para makagalaw ka. Okay? And then, here is the potter's wheel. Okay? And because of the potter's wheel, they were able to come up with clay pots. Yan. And here, as you can see here, yung plow. Ito, this is actually a part of the plow. Dapat meron siyang bakal na ano sa ilalim. Itong part na to. Hihilain niya ng dalawang baka. Okay, hihilain yan para bungkal ng lupa. Okay? And then they also have a clock, a water clock to measure time, and they also incorporated sewers under the streets. Parang yung wastewater nila nagpo-flow palabas. Now, here are more examples of their technology. So they were able to harness bronze and weapons kasi ito yung papunta na from Bronze, Iron Age, into Modern Age na to the civilization. And they also have pigments, bleaching, and dyeing. Here is an example of a bleach. We have here a not bleach but dyeing pigments. So you have here a red pigment. Tas common sa kanila yung blue because that's a mineral that is famous in their location. Kaya nakakapag-paint sila sa mga murals nila. And then they have also makeup. Now, pagkakaiba nila sa makeup nila, it's more on eyeshadow lang. Eyeliner na makakapal sa mata. Kahit mga lalaki may eyeliner. Parang similar with the Egyptian. Yun nga lang sa Egyptian may extension yung kanilang eyeliner. Yung ano, yung chinky eye. Pati sa lalaki may chinky eye din sila. Okay. Then they also started with glass jewelries. And then they also have irrigation as seen here in the picture here. So you have here water flowing in from the river going towards their uh tawag to, there's soil yung tinitil nila. Okay, and then you can see there it is showing also fishes going inside their canals. Okay, and here is another example of their technology. They already started producing bricks. Okay, and then they have textile based on the pictures, yung mga design nila sa padets. And also they have their clothing naman, eh. Hindi naman sila hubad-hubad na naglalakad. So meron silang mga damit na nung unang panahon. So ito yung flow, wala nga lang siyang gulong. And then here is an evidence that they were able to smelt metals. So kumbaga nagaan na sila ng mga bakal. This is actually gold and some bluish material. Okay. And another thing that is famous for them is their mathematical system. So they were actually the ones who started with the 60 base numeric system, or what we call the sexagesimal system. Okay. So it's actually this allowed them to divide circle into 360 degrees and yung number of months in a year using factor of 60, and they were able to calculate areas of rectangles and triangles. Now, if you will notice here, yung number system nila, you might say that this is almost similar to the Roman style. Yun nga lang, di ba, sa Roman numerical system, meron silang I, tapos may V, and saka X for 10. Yun nga lang dito, wala siyang 5. Automatic na yan. So, 1, then 10 na kaagad yung next symbol nila. So it's just a mixture of singles and the bend. Okay? So yan, yun nga lang mahirap siyang i-identify. Maybe it's just their way. Unlike sa Roman numerals, hanggang ngayon ginagamit pa rin 'di ba ang Roman numerals. Yun nga lang, it's not as easy to write down if you're just going to do a Hindu-Arabic system. Okay? But their number system has actually allowed us to be able to compute some of the different items like sa circumference. Yan. Then at the same time, in terms of science, they were able to come up with different plants and animals and different minerals that can be used for healing. Okay, so an example of that one here, ito mukha itong insekto. Hindi ko na ma-identify what type of insect is this. Pero ito, alam ko to. This is yung star anise. Yung nilalagay ito sa nilaga or sa bulalo para mabango. Then I think this is luya. Okay, I'm not sure about this one, but this one is a chuete. Okay, and they were able to use them for different diseases. Now, this one is saffron. Now, saffron, guys, is a very expensive part of flower, a particular flower. And mahal yan. Mahal na commodity to. Okay, lalo na sa trading ng unang panahon. At sa atin naman, yung saffron nilalagay natin sa lugaw para mas mabango yung lugaw natin. Yun yung minsan, pag kumakain kayo ng arroz caldo, yun yung mga pula-pula na nilalagay ni nanay or ni lola. Pero ngayon, kasi pag bumili na kayo, wala na, hindi na nilalagyan ng saffron yan. Pero dati nilalagyan yan para mas malasa yung dating. Okay. Another one is their art system. Although you may say that this is art, but it's actually showing their ingenuity. So they have here a labeling system that actually tells you about the name of the character of the of the royalty. So instead of having signatures, they use a cylindrical seal as a stamp. Kahit di ba 'pag nanonood kayo ng Korean telenovela, 'pag, may business sila, lalagyan nila ng pantatak. Gano'n din sa Chinese. Okey, dito sa atin sa Pilipinas meron din yung mga doktor at saka nurse tatatakan na lang nila instead na pipirmahan, okey? Gano'n din kami dati sa teacher, gumawa din ako ng seal na ini-stamp ko kaya lang nga ano, iniiwanan ko wala akong ano, wala akong pantatak na mamahalin, 'wag na lang. So, pirma na lang. Okay. Then they also have here examples of their pottery. Okay. So they were able to incorporate different animals as well in their pots. Yan. Si kabayo, isdang malalaki. Yan. So if you will notice, medyo primitive to. Ito medyo modern na to. Along with this. Kasi they were able to incorporate pigments as well. And here is a stone. Actually, if you're going to look into this one, you might say that this is tawag nito, um, a stone telling about the stars, the constellations. Kasi ito yung mga different animals of of the zodiac. Actually, before the Chinese had the zodiac, they already have their own version of the zodiac, and then later on it was adopted by the Westerners, by the Romans, and then the Western. Okay, so you have their turtle, then you have here the moon, the different stars, and then the sun. And then there is actually writings here explaining the ones on top. Then here, chuchu ano lang yun, laruan, and then more potteries. Okay? And then ingenuity in terms of metallurgy, yan. The best way to show metals at its finest is in the form of jewelry. So you have your necklace, rings, then you also have headdresses. Majority guys ng mga ancient women in the past, ang mga babae sinusutan ng mga burloloy sa buhok, lalo na dun sa mga Arabian areas. Okay? So yan, punong-puno sila ng alahas. Okay? Yung buhok nila. And then their musical instruments, just to share with you, they were able to come up with musical instruments. Parang may maracas dyan. Then harp na maliliit. Okay? And maliliit na tambol. Now, hindi po puwede siya na ng malalaki kasi majority of them have work, okay? So, para ano lang yan, eh, sideline lang nila itong musical instruments, okay? And then, in terms of language, the Sumerians had the oldest linguistic on record. And it's actually the cuneiform, which is the oldest written language. Okay, so this was actually started off with the Sumerians, and it was adopted by the different uh, civilizations in Babylon, it's Mesopotamia. So if you will notice, the Sumerians made their own version or own language to depict different animals, different events. And then the Babylonians somehow adopted it using the cuneiform. And then the Assyrians assimilated it as well. Okay, so konti lang halos ang pinagbago dun sa from Old Babylonian, Assyrian to the New Babylonian. And if you will look here, this is the Persian. So this is the Persian cuneiform. This is the one that was used by the Persian civilization. And again, it is still similar to the old civilization. Okay? Even the numerical system, in-apply din nila sa Persian. Now, if you're going to summarize the technologies that are science and technology under the Sumerians and the other civilization in that area, in writing, we have the cuneiform. They were able to do math, law, to be written down because of the language. And at the same time, they were able to come up with the history and also literature. One of the famous literature that is synonymous to a Sumerian is Gilgamesh. Do you know who Gilgamesh is? Naku, hindi nila yata kilala kung sino si Gilgamesh. Si Gilgamesh is actually a warrior. Okay? Pero siya yung ginamit na character dun sa Eternals. Okay? Yung lalaki dun sa Train to Busan. Yan. Okay? Siya yung kinuhanan nung story, si Gilgamesh, which is from that particular region. Yan. Okay? So this is actually from the Ishtar Gate. We will be discussing the Ishtar Gate later on. Okay, let's go back. So another one of the technologies that they were able to advance is the wheel system. So they have this actually for transportation and pottery, and then for flow, which allowed them to farm efficiently, and also they were able to um, use animals for their plowing, and also this allowed them to have more food supply. Now, the other, after the Sumerians, you have the Akkadians who also tried to expand and conquer the Sumerians, kaya nawala na yung Sumerians. And he was actually able to unite the whole area. And then later on, after this, the reign of Sargon the Great, the Sumerians, or the whole area was divided into two. Ang natira po is Babylonians and the Assyrians. Okay? So yung Babylonians naman po, they was actually made famous using the Code of Hammurabi, yung eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Okay? And they were able to create the Ishtar Gate. Okay? And then you also have the gates of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So here at the bottom is an artist. Teka lang, mali-mali yung pinipindot ko eh. Here at the bottom is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, artist rendition. Pero ito po yung nakita na evidence of the Hanging Gardens. Pero hindi po siya sa Babylon kasi nga if you recall the map, ang Babylon po is nasa baba. Pero this one is actually sa taas. Kaya ang tamang pangalan niya po is Hanging Gardens of Nineveh. Okay? So yun yung original na name niya. Yun nga lang, since nasakop ng mga Babylonians yung buong lugar, so pati yung Nineveh, hindi na tinawag na Nineveh, basta tinawag na lang na Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Okay, so here are more examples of pictures, modern pictures of the walls of Babylon that was destroyed. Again, using the same idea, it's made up of bricks, and makakapal yung bricks nila just to make sure that wala pong makakapasok na mga kaaway. So here are more pictures, artist rendition of what the city would look like. Okay, and then the Ishtar Gate. Okay, now the Ishtar Gate is actually one of the wonders of the ancient world, along with the Great Wall of China, and it was actually created by Nebuchadnezzar. Now, some of the materials are already in Berlin. Itong mga to, yung mga darker blue parts ng mismong Ishtar Gate is actually reconstructed na lang. Itong mga to, here on the next picture, itong mga part na to, ito yung original part nung Ishtar Gate. The rest, itong mga to, basta darker in color, they're already reconstructed. So here are more pictures of the procession street near the Ishtar Gate. Okay? So, yan po yung mga characteristic ng mga Babylonians. Okay? So, they have the Great Wall of the Hanging Gardens. They have the Ishtar Gate, then the Ziggurat, the Temple of Marduk, the Processional Way. Okay? So, those are the things that made Mesopotamia greater. Okay? So, yan po. Any questions so far with the prehistoric and the uh, Mesopotamian?
None
Na
so far po.
none so far. Okay. So yan, dahil dyan, I have here a summary video from National Geographic about ancient Mesopotamia. Okay, let me just change para marinig nyo sa inyo dyan. Okay? Although this is already included in your TVL Hub, but at least you'll be able to watch it along.
The story of writing, astronomy,